Cancellation rate. I pay attention to it. Do you? The thing with cancellation rate is it basically gives you as the buyer an opportunity or a second shot at a property that goes under contract. Now in certain markets, and I'll use an example of our market now where it's very low inventory and high demand. It's creating that frenzy of buyers and it's a coveted seller's market. You have buyers that are entering into contracts what one might call prematurely. They're caught up in the speed of needing to identify a property, get it under contract, and then once they actually get that contract and it's theirs, time slows down, and that is when either buyer's remorse sets in or they realize that maybe they're overpaying for this property and they no longer want it. Now with Florida contracts, a buyer has the opportunity or right to cancel their contract during their inspection contingency for whatever reason. And I've had buyers cancel and they haven't given any reason. Maybe they found another property, maybe they realized they're overpaying for it, or maybe they just didn't want that property. It's hard to determine. But where I'm going with this is there is a ratio that I closely track in our market, and it's called the cancellation rate. Now this is a rate or a percentage of properties that go under contract and then come back on the market. So for today's research, I did a 5-mile radius in Rockledge, Melbourne. I looked for closed transactions dating back to January of 2021, priced between $300,000 and $500,000. And then I excluded new construction just because the history in those a bit skewed. Now I came up with 96 results, and I went through 96 of these listings and I looked at the history of the transaction and looked for properties that had gone under contract and then fallen through. And after going through all of these, I found that 19 had come back on the market. Now that represents a 20% cancellation rate. Now there were a few in there that had some interesting history, and it looks like the property was under contract, it was falling through, and the listing agent reassigned the selling agent, which basically tells me that the property did fall through, but they had a backup offer or another buyer that was willing to purchase it before that property went on the market. So that ratio right there gave me an additional 4 properties out of that 96, which pushed us up to that 25% ratio. So as a buyer, what does that mean to you? Well, if you're looking at properties and you're not looking at properties that are under contract or marked as backups, then I think you're missing an opportunity. I couldn't tell you how many clients that I have walked through properties that are already under contract, encouraged them to write a backup offer, and then that backup offer actually ended up becoming the primary because again, we have a 1 in 5 chance odds of that contract falling through, and I love those odds. I think it's really something that as a buyer, you should be looking into. And there are not many agents that are gonna waste their time showing you these properties under contract because they don't know these stats and these ratios. But in a market like this where it is slim pickings, I think it's really advantageous to look at properties that are under contract and gamble on them. Take the risk, write a backup offer, get locked in at it, and then worst case, if you find another property and you go under contract on that one, guess what? Pull your backup offer. That's it. There's really no skin in the game on a backup offer. You have the contract, you have not deposited escrow, you haven't conducted inspections, you're literally a backup. You're just sitting there waiting for the primary one to cancel. So you really don't have anything to lose. I fully encourage you guys to get out there, write some backup offers, and just let the math work for you.